Let's talk about 5 spine-chilling horror movies that were based on true stories. Number 1 is The Exorcism of Emily Rose. This movie is based on the story of Anneliese Michel, a German woman who died of malnutrition and dehydration, and her priest and parents were both charged with her death. The first strange thing about this story is that Anneliese's parents first took her to get psychiatric treatment before going down the path of an exorcism. Her parents claim that she was able to communicate with Mary Magdalene, and she was on medication for 5 years before she saw an exorcist. And The Autopsy of Emily Rose isn't even the only movie based on this weird story. 2 other movies that talk about Anneliese's story is Requiem and Anneliese, the Exorcist tape. Number 2, Scream. This movie came about because Kevin Williamson, the writer of the script, watched a movie about the Gainesville murders. This was a tragic event in which several young people in Gainesville, Florida had their lives taken by a serial killer. The killing spree went on for 3 days and claimed the lives of 5 victims. It's honestly really disturbing to read the details, so I'm not going to go into it in this video. Number 3 is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now, this movie was inspired by the crimes of Ed Gein, who did some really unspeakable things to his victims. But Ed Gein didn't just inspire the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He also inspired horror movies like Psycho and The Silence of the Lambs. Ed Gein's primary victims were people who were already dead. He would go to graveyards and exhume corpses from their graves. He was known as the Butcher of Plainfield or the Plainfield Ghoul. Number 4 is The Strangers. Now, this movie is based on 2 real-life events. The first one are the Charles Mansfield murders and the 1981 Ketty Cabin murders, in which 4 people were killed in a California resort town. And just like in the movie The Strangers, the killers wore masks. Number 5 is Zodiac, starring Jake Gyllenhaal as an obsessed detective who needs to find out who the Zodiac killer is. David Fincher went above and beyond to make this movie as realistic to the actual Zodiac killings as possible. First of all, in the movie, the clothing that you see the victims wearing were meticulously recreated by the ones that the actual victims in real life wore. David Fincher also decided not to depict any of the Zodiac murders for which there were no witnesses. So if nobody saw the crime and he wasn't able to get any references for it, he didn't put them in the movie. Another interesting fact is that the Zodiac killer himself originally wondered who would play him in a movie about him. And in this movie that is about him, he's played by 3 different actors, and their faces are always obscured by something. Now, that may have been done because nobody actually saw him, therefore they wouldn't be able to accurately depict what he looked like, but it might have also been a way to not give the real Zodiac killer what he wanted, which was probably a famous actor playing him in a Hollywood movie. And maybe the coolest thing about this film is that after it became a smash hit, the case behind the Zodiac killer was re-released after being shelved for many, many years. So tell me, have you ever seen these horror movies based on true stories? Did you know that they were based on true stories? And are there any other movies you'd like me to cover on this channel? Write to me in the comments and stay tuned for more horror content.